Welcome back to Sunrise Daily, coming to you live from our Abuja studio. Standing by with me is the chairman and CEO of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Professor James Momoh. We were just talking about the new eligible customer policy, which is allowing industrial consumers who consume over 2 megawatts on a monthly basis to secure their power directly from generation companies as opposed to electricity distribution companies. And that takes me to my next question, which is obviously there's been so much kind of uproar from a broad cross-section of Nigerians over the failure of distribution companies to effectively meter them and to effectively end this very controversial estimated billing regime in the country. What is your response to the uproar, and what do you say to those that assert that the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission is not doing enough to hold the distribution companies accountable in this country?
Well, again, understand your comments and your concern about metering issue in Nigeria. It is a concern to all of us. It is a concern to NERC. It is a concern to the customer. It is a concern to government. It is a concern to DISCO also. Going backwards is that there's a time when we do not have the so-called independence of metering, or people franchising metering was not an activity in the country. NERC stepped in and said, what do we do to make sure that customers have rights to meters? What do we do to have a franchise market where you can go to the store, buy your own meter, ask it to be calibrated, ask it to be installed in your premises? And I think this is what was lacking. There was a metering gap for many, many years in the country. Mind you, it was a vertical industry, vertically integrated industry, which is one company called Genco, DISCO, and transmission line in between. Upon unbundling the services of the industry, the DISCO now were given the mandate to provide services to customers. And one of those services is to provide meters. It became very difficult for them to do. It is thereby our own challenge as a regulator to see what do we do to facilitate metering, to close that metering gap. What do we do to support the DISCO to be able to have access to metering, billing properly to customer, rather than doing this so-called estimated billing because of lack of metering. So NERC, in its wisdom, have put together a meter access provider, which is called MAP, asset which allows customer now to go to the market, buy your own meter, have it installed in your premises, have it properly calibrated, pay for what energy you use, and of course be able to manage the energy, be able to worry about energy efficient schemes that will allow you to pay less and to minimize losses. And that is what we are doing in NERC. NERC is not silent. By this certain, you will see that average customer in Nigeria will be able to decide the type of franchise of metering they want and have it installed and have it properly calibrated. I think this is the good thing that we are doing in NERC. We are really providing these services now to make sure all customers are taken care of, as well as helping us to know the number of customers out there. So there's enumeration going on. The metering will also close the gap, not only metering gap, minimize losses, minimize collection losses, minimize technical losses, help us to minimize all the issue of theft and so on and so forth. So this day, I think we are on the side of both the customer and the DISCO at this time. As a regulator, we are not biased. We are trying to balance there. We want to make sure that DISCOs get money for their services. We want to make sure that customers also get energy for their consumption.
Professor Momoh, at what point, though, does the Regulatory Commission wield the big stick? Because we've heard from the distribution companies under the aegis of ANED, the Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, and they've essentially said that, look, your measure, this program that you've cited, the meter assets provision scheme, that essentially it has now taken that mandatory responsibility of the distribution companies away from them. That essentially they're no longer liable now to provide metering to consumers because the federal government has stepped in. What is your response to that?
Well, I'm not here to discuss what they said NERC has not done. NERC has a mandate, and that mandate is to set rules, is to mandate that is to make sure those rules are enforced, and also to make sure that customers' needs are taken care of, and our investors, including the licensees, are encouraged to do business and to make money, and to encourage them at the same time to make sure that we don't do the business the usual way, where you do whatever you like, there's no enforcement. Yes, we are enforcing rules. If we make sure that the DISCO, in general, pay their dues, they do proper enumeration, and we also make sure that they introduce technology that will reduce losses in the network. All the issue of collection losses, NERC is encouraging and demanding and requesting distribution companies to be out there, making sure that they, as I said, invest in the modernization of the grid, to make sure they are out there making sure that customers are properly billed for what power they have used, and rather than doing estimation. When they are caught not doing this, we have rules that will sanction them. We have rules that will actually enforce our rules to make sure that we bring them to the book. We do auditing of their book. We do book review to find out where there are lapses. And when we discover lapses, we take action. So we are not, what you said, doing nothing or not enforcing our own rules. We do enforce our rules, but we do it with human face. We do it with human face. In other words, we bring all the parties together and we talk to them and we ask what can we do to solve problems that may be going on between DISCOs or even customers. We have out there forum offices where we try to get customer complaints, and we try to be the mediator between the complaints through DISCO and find solutions just in time.
We heard last month from the Minister of Power Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, when he essentially gave an ultimatum to the 11 distribution companies around the country, saying that essentially if they do not upgrade their services, that they should exit the market. And he even cited the powers resident in the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission within the act that enabled your commission, Section 73 and 74, which enables your commission to revoke licenses of the distribution companies if they fail to provide the services according to the contracts of the license. Why have we not seen the kinds of, the use of the regulatory power in terms of how the licenses given to the distribution companies be either amended or outrightly revoked in view of what we're seeing from the distribution companies?
Well, we have a process of carrying out our responsibilities. The minister has spoken. He has given directives in terms of what we know we have to do. And we know that we have to do what he mentioned in the public, in the news, press release. What we are saying is that we are actually enforcing and carrying out most of those things that he mentioned. But we're taking step-by-step approach, study the situation, call for a meeting, write an enforcement letter, remind the DISCO what is their responsibility with respect to providing affordable, efficient, and reliable power to customers, and making sure appropriate billing is done. And we are also taking action when that is not done. We're taking action sometimes within our province. We have done many things that we are probably not exposed to the public. What do I mean? Well, when we see that DISCO is not meeting the needs of the customers, we've had meetings with them. We've taken some actions. A case you are aware of, when we realize that money that is invested in DISCO is not properly used to improve the quality of service, to maintain the infrastructure, we've taken action. When we know that customers' complaints are not attended to, we've taken action. What have we done? We've reached out on behalf of the customer, we've reached out to the DISCO, and we've actually asked them to do what is needful. So I believe that we're doing our part, but we're doing it according to the law. We have hearing, we have meetings, and of course we try to find resolution. So that is really what we've been doing.
Now, what would you say to those who are concerned that there may be internal compromise within the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission in terms of a potential collusion with distribution companies to essentially not enforce regulations that should be enforced on the basis of some sort of mutual understanding that might not be above board?
Well, that's news to me. I've always heard the word, there's compromise. There's no compromise that I'm aware of. Under my leadership, we are not compromising. We are not compromising with DISCO, whether it's DISCO staff or DISCO management, DISCO investors, none of the above. We are doing our job as a regulator, but you may see us as balancing between the customer and the DISCO many times because that's our job. We have to fulfill the mandate. We have to ensure that we don't throw the baby and the water away each time. We look at what I think the DISCO may need. Maybe they may need advice on how to run the system. Maybe they may need encouragement on how to serve better. Maybe they need encouragement to get investors to invest in their network or to manage their facility. We know the challenges. We know the challenges they have. So really, rather than the word compromising, I don't think that is our responsibility. We do not compromise. And we will not compromise because we are given a task to facilitate energy delivery, quality energy delivery, efficient delivery that will, at the end of the day, will make everybody a win-win. So I believe the assumption is that